I'm Dan, and thanks for joining me. And this is going to be sort of a instructional video on how to rig a buzz bomb. I've got 3 different sizes here. I'm not going to show you how to do them all because it's basically the same for all of them. But this one here, the smaller of the 3, it's a 2-inch, and I haven't actually weighed these, but I think this one is about an ounce, maybe somewhere around there. This one's probably about 1.25 ounces, maybe 1.5 ounces. I might be pushing it there. This one is, I think it's a nice solid 2 ounces, somewhere around there. So I get a lot of questions. People ask me, like, what do you need besides the buzz bomb? Like, what size leader, or are you using weights, or what size hook, and what size line, all that stuff. So just thought I'd do a quick video on this and just kind of touch base with what works for me and how I rig it, and a little bit of what you're supposed to do. So I'm just going to turn up the lights here for so you can see the line. I'm going to move all this stuff out of the way here, so this is going to brighten up a bit. Here's the hooks I'm using. The hooks you use just depend on what you're fishing for, really. I've also got some beads here too. Buzz bomb doesn't come with beads, but I like to use beads with my setup that I like to use. So let's get all this out of the way. Got some line here. This is just Sufix Pro Select 15 pound. Something I might use for, say, salmon casting from shore. So just carefully always cut away. My sharp knife does it every time. This is the 3-inch. This is designated as H. 3XH means 3-inch, and it's the heavy 3-inch. This is what's called yellow and red. It's white on one side and yellow and red on the other, or it's actually yellow and orange, but whatever. So hopefully you can see all this here. Yeah, it looks good. Alright, so let's start, shall we? So we'll take some line, some of the Sufix Pro Select 15 pound. Now, most people don't know this. This is actually probably the main reason why I'm actually doing this video, is because a buzz bomb is actually supposed to go on a certain way. And if you just take this out of the package and just put the line in through a random end, you're not really sure which one it goes into, you have a 50% chance of rigging this wrong. So the easiest way to tell for how to rig this properly is you look on the back, the white side, and if it's white, then it's on one side. I don't know if you can see that or not. Right there says hook with an arrow pointing to this end here. So that's where your hook should be. So when this is rigged, your line's through it, you've got it all set up, your hook should be down here, this end. The other way to tell, which is what I do just by looking at it, is the hook always goes towards the narrow, skinny end. You notice this end is a bit wider than this end. So this is kind of short and wide, this is kind of long and skinny. Not by much, but just enough to give it some a certain action as it's sinking. So now that we've got that squared away, this is the hook that I'm going to use. It's a Gamakatsu size 1, it says. And personally, I don't use treble hooks. If I'm going to release a fish, I'd rather not be digging a treble hook out of its face or out of my hand. So I don't use them. I use single hooks. And In the case of salmon, you have to have the barb completely crimped all the way down, and if you're unsure of whether you've got it crimped all the way down, just rub against it backwards. And if you feel a little poke, then it needs some more work. But this isn't necessarily a hook that I would use for salmon. It's a little bit small. It's not too small, but it's a little bit small. This is something I use for like rockfish, lingcod, greenling, that kind of thing. So let's put this together with the treble hook, just to show you what the recommendations on the package are. So we'll go with the recommendations, of course, of the hook being here on this end, down here. So we'll feed our line through the top. Like this. And out the bottom. Like that. And then your little rubber bumper goes on next. So guy. Oops. Thread that through. And then the hook, treble hook. And you should, once it's tied up, of course, I'm not going to do it because it takes me forever. That's what it should look like. That's rigged, ready to go. But I set it up a little bit different than what the manufacturer recommends, mainly because, well, I'll show you when I get it set up. I'll show you why I change it. The main reason is because I don't use this treble hook. This is a good way to set this up if you're using the treble hook. If you're not using the treble hook, you're using a single hook, there's a better way to set this up. I'll show you. Basically, I'll leave the buzz bomb on the line, but I'll take these two other items off. And this is where the bead comes in. So instead of doing the rubber bumper first, I'll put on a bead, and then I'll just put on my hook. And I've seen some people set theirs up with the bead and the bumper, which is fine, but I just like keeping it simple and just going like that. Let's say that's tied on. I also think that if the buzz bomb, well, here we go. The buzz bomb is resting on the bead. It's probably going to spin a little better. If it's, I don't know if that comes into play or not, but it probably wouldn't spin like that as easily if it was on rubber than it would if it was on hard plastic. But let me show you why I don't use the rubber bumper. And that is because I use a single hook. Thread that back on. And then I'll put the single hook back on. And what I find happens when I have this set up, and I've tried it, right? There it is. What happens is sometimes you get snagged on something like a piece of kelp or maybe even a rock, and there's a lot of pressure on the front of this lure that pushes down onto that rubber bumper onto the eye of the hook. And if I can just show you what happens when there's a lot of pressure, and basically it's because the eye of the single hook is a lot smaller than the eye of the treble hook. There's quite a difference there. And what happens is that rubber bumper gets just a little bit of pressure on it, and it gets pushed over. That's not ideal. It's not actually working at that point. So you don't want that to happen. So, like I said, I'll put the bead on and then the hook. Or some people put the bumper on and then the bead, and then the hook, which you can do too, but I just keep it a little bit more simple. So, oh yeah, bead. So I'll actually tie this up. Shouldn't take me too long. Alright, there's the bead. Let's get it on the video maybe. There's the lure, the bead. Here's the hook. Just going to do this real quick here. This isn't normally what I do to actually get a decent knot. Just trying to get this done and just trying to keep your attention. There we go. And there it is. Cut your tag. This is not the best way to do it, but stuck in my mustache. Yuck. Alright. So that is how I would rig it. With a single hook and a bead and the lure obviously in the proper position. And like I said, you can put a rubber bumper in between the bead and the lure if you want. So that's about it. Just wanted to show you how you rig that, how I rig that. That's really all there is to it. There's no, I don't use a leader. I don't use any swivels. There's no weights. There's nothing else. This is just straight up tied to the hook with a bead and the lure, and hopefully that holds your fish when you catch one. As for how the action on this lure, you're best just to follow the instructions on the back, which I will read to you now. And as I said, I use this for mainly catching salmon, and that's just casting out. I'm not going to be using this from a boat. So from shore, casting out, it says cast lure out into surface feeding fish. Yeah, hopefully they're there. Lift rod tip smoothly about 2 feet. Immediately throw rod tip backwards, back towards lure, creating slack line. Reel in slack, repeat. So that's really important that when you cast it out and you've lifted it, to really whip that rod tip back down pointing towards the water, and you want to see your line bunch up with a bunch of slack, and you want to watch that line sink, and then you want to lift it again. And that's really the action that you need to do to get fish to bite this. The color doesn't, I don't think it really matters. Fish will be attracted to the sight and the sound of it, no matter the color. You just want the appropriate size and appropriate setup. Like I said, you can use a treble hook, and it's barbed, so just be aware that if you want to release fish off a hook like this, geez, just about got myself there. Get rid of this thing. You're going to be in for a chore. It's not fun. When I started fishing using like crankbaits for bass, I did not have a good time getting these fish off these things. You know, bass are basically catch and release, so if you like fishing and you like your fish, treat them nice. And you know, this thing is it's pretty mean if you want to throw these fish back that you're catching. In good shape anyways. So that's it for this. Thanks for watching, and good luck fishing.